What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Keep Growing, the spot where resilience meets style. We're here to help young men like you walk through life with confidence, intention, and a plan for success. From life tips to fresh kicks, we've got the tools and inspiration to help you not just survive, but thrive. From where you are to where you're going, let's keep growing.
That's nice right there, man. That intro, man, always gets me going, and especially sitting here with Julian and Deshaun, bro. We dab you up for another time.
Back at it again with another one.
Family reunion, who we introducing. We got the same guys out here today, y'all, in the beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. Today, we are really going to be focusing on money, and how that plays a role in men's lives. And, you know, from the time that we're born till the time we're, sitting here at 28 to 30 years old, it always has an impact in our life. And the way it shows up is different for everyone. And I think there are a few common factors that men lean on money for and how that shows up in their everyday lives. So first, I just want to say, very blessed to be sitting here on episode 9 of the Keep Growing show with Julian and Deshaun. And we're consistently getting better throughout the weeks, man. I be watching these and it sounds conceited, but I think it's getting better and better, man. It's real feedback and real purpose and real driven results with what's going on. So
no doubt.
Let's just get into it real quick, Julian. I want to hear what your take is on how money shows up in your everyday life. Like, how do you prioritize money in your everyday life?
Well, me personally, I'm a big saver.
Okay.
I like looking at my savings and seeing it accumulate.
There you go.
Personally, but at the same time, I do think that taking calculated risk and just like living life is essential at the same time. You know what I mean? Like that's the point of money is to enjoy it. Like you don't want to hoard it. You want to be smart about it.
Right.
You want to be smart about it. So again, that varies with people and what they have going on. But me personally, I love saving, man, because I look at it from the perspective of, let's say if I want to do something, if I want to get something, if I want to take a trip, I can do it.
There you go.
I can do it.
Flexibility.
I don't ever want to be in a space to where it's like, nah, I can't do this or I can't do that. Now, you might say you can't do certain things just because you don't want to put yourself in a certain situation, but having the ability to be able to do certain things, that's what resonates with me.
And it's so funny, like being Christian, I think it all comes back to like the whole foundation of who I am as a person. You can get caught in both ways. You can get caught being greedy with over saving. Then you have all this money in your account that you're not doing your due diligence of blessing others or blessing, yourself with certain experiences. And then you have the opposite side to where you're spending a bunch of money. It's not going towards anything, but it's coming off egotistical and you're showing up as somebody that's not really who you are as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I do think that's a great balance. For me, I would say I would be a little bit more on the spending side. I just in the recent, I would say as less of 3 to 5 years, I started focusing on my savings account.
For sure.
Just because I think once you get older, you can't just keep spending, bro. Like there's no way. It's all you at a certain point. And I think that was one thing that really hit me hard was savings was just nothing that I really cared about, just due to the fact that like what some of my lifestyle situations look like, being able to be on my parents' insurance plan for till 25, and I'm 28 now. So there is definitely some transitioning that goes into it once you get a little bit older and you have those blessings to stay on stuff like that. But I think everybody shows up differently, and it starts with the people in their lives and how they focus and fear money. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you've ever heard that saying before, is like the way you look at money is the way you were brought up on money.
I can see that.
So you live a pretty good lifestyle, I would say. Like you travel, from time to time and whatnot. Was that ever talked about to you when you were a kid, man? Like, was that ever something, hey, Julian, like, you should really think about traveling the world when you get older? Like, were those conversations that they ever had with you when you were a kid?
No, not really.
So how did your mindset get to that point?
I think just reflecting on just who I was when I was young. Yeah. And I think it's a gift because I think the gift of foresight given by God is really a gift. But I think subsiding just, not subsiding, but to bring everything together, I would see certain things from a young age and just be like, I like that. I want to apply that to my life. Or I don't like that. I'm going to remove that. And I'm not going to move in that way for that to come into my life. Okay. So I say that in a sense of like, even when I was young, right? I would watch videos and movies of California. I'm from Chicago. And I would see palm trees. I would see the beach. And I would instinctually be like, that's better living. Like that's I want to live like that.
Deshaun's like, hell no.
I want to, but from like that environment, bro.
From Chicago, that's crazy.
Palm trees and mountains on the TV. I'm looking like it looks aesthetically. Nice. It's better living. That's how it looks, you know. So I say that to say there were certain things that I saw to where it was like I want that for my life.
I can understand.
I want that, sure. And then there's certain things that I also saw to where it was like, nah, I don't want that, and so. That just goes into everything just from having the mindset of seeing things and being like, I want it or I don't from a young age. And I think that's just a gift.
No, that's amazing. And I think that's what I genuinely, I guess I love about meeting with you and doing these episodes with you is that you have such a different demographic and perspective than I ever had growing up. So it's like hearing you talk about that, where it's like you had to show yourself based off of just watching a show of like, oh, I want that for myself. Like, that's really cool to hear because that's foreign to me because my parents had summers off because they were teachers and we'd come out here every summer since I was like 5 years old. Okay. So coming out here when I was that young, that's how I saw for myself, my parents introducing me to like, this is what life looks like.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I want this for myself. Absolutely. Like I knew as soon as I got out here, when I was like maybe 10 or 11 and I could actually comprehend, I was like, this is home.
You know,
like, this is my goal. This is my California. And people would think I'm crazy for saying that, but sense. Man, this is so beautiful over here. And I think that's what some smaller wins that I appreciate my parents for was being able to put us in, you know, nice hotels when they could. It's not like they had hella money, but they had the time to save and put us in those hotels for a couple of days. And that's what got me to be like, I want that for myself.
Sure. So. And you know, this being an athlete as well, traveling, that exposes a lot too.
Oh, for sure.
And being athletes, when you start really traveling and you start going on trips into different cities and start seeing like how other people live, at least for me, that was a big factor to be like, oh yeah, like people live differently. You know, so being receptive to things like that definitely advanced my mind in the sense of like, again, going to, I want this or I don't want this.
There you go. So, yeah. And it comes in different shapes and forms, bro. And I think it comes down to taking it personal and moving forward with that in your life.
That's very true.
So to stay on the personal battle, I saw this question. I really liked it because it's kind of funny to think about, but I can think it can maybe, you know, stir some feathers up. No doubt. So the question is, do you feel like being broke is a personal issue or is that a situational issue?
Wow. It could be both. I think it's both. I say both because when you're young, you have no control.
That's true.
You have no control over your situation.
Let's put an age limit on it. So like, let's say the average working age maybe is like 19, 20.
At a certain point where cognitive discipline can come into play, after a while, and it's younger for others and older for others, but once you start figuring out like money can do things, that spark should at least come into play to be like, all right, let me start getting. Let me figure out how to try to get some money. Like it could be a small amount, it's for whatever age, but at least that mindset of how can I try to get money so that I can at least go to the store, get some chips, go to get something to drink when I'm thirsty, not have to ask somebody for, you know, like that should at least start to spark. So after a while, after I'll say like a teenage standpoint, for sure it's a personal thing. It's a personal
like your mid-20s to later 20s, that's a personal thing.
Either you're just you're not saving, you're being frivolous with your money, you're not being cognizant. There's a plethora of things that can happen to where somebody is just not, or people aren't putting themselves in a position to try to. There are a lot of different ways, but after a while, it's for sure a personal thing.
Absolutely. I think just looking at it from a sense of what does poor look like to everyone? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does your poor state look like? Because when I think of seeing somebody on the side of the road, I'm like, oh, they're poor. Mm-hmm. They don't have anything to lean on. You know, they don't have any type of financially. Yes, they don't have anything to lean on when we're talking about money. But when I think of somebody else that may say like, oh, I'm poor, it's like, bro, I know you have a house. I know you have a car. Mm-hmm. I know you're eating a couple meals a day. You may feel that way, which I can't take that away from you. But from a whole entirety of being poor, that sounds like there are some decisions you got to make in your financial life that you maybe don't align with anymore. Absolutely. So I do think, you know, after a certain age, you know, in your mid-20s, you got to start thinking about like, is that a decision that I'm putting on myself? Like, are those decisions that I'm really putting on myself?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people take it personal to be called poor, to like really put themselves in a situation.
I'm not laughing at that, but
I'm saying,
sure,
bro, like
for sure, yeah.
Like I think Deshaun and I were talking about it, like how we need to bring back shame for certain things. And
absolutely.
I definitely think that we, with money and in our close knit of friends, need to bring out like, bro, why are you spending that much money at a club? Why are you getting a $2,000 table? Like, how does that make sense? You're poor for that. I would say like we need to change the perception of what poor looks like and say you're poor for doing stuff like that.
That reminds me of the Andrew Tate meme when he's like, "You're a brokey, you're poor, you're poor." But I think you are true in that sense, man. I think with your close homies, there is a certain level of openness that needs to be had to where it's like, hey, bro, why are you doing that? You know what I mean? Is that in your best interest?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that going to advance you in your life? And it's not to knock, it's out of love. Like, bro, like stack your bread. You know what I mean? Save that. Say, don't do that. You know what I mean? It's never pocket watching because you're a grown man. You can do what you want. But out of love, bro, don't like try to be as wise as possible. You're still going to make the choice, but just plant that seed of like, nah, bro, that's probably not the route.
Okay, next question for you would be, why do you think real confidence can't be based on a dollar sign?
Well, and again, it's hard for me not to look at things from like an athletic standpoint, but when we were young, and I mentioned it in the other segment, we were who we are as athletes with no money.
Yeah.
With no money.
But what about the people that aren't athletes? Because you got a lot of these people that come up and
that's a great point.
They don't really play sports and they got money like that. They go to the private schools. They just got a different set of living standards and situations and values than we did.
Yeah.
And I don't know many people like that, but I've had conversations with people and they have reasonable explanations of why they grow up a certain way.
Yeah.
So like maybe like how would you tell somebody like that or try to understand like where they're coming from to say like, you know, why you can't have real confidence based just off of how much money you make a year. Because there's a lot of men out here that are doing that, bro. Yeah. They're leading their confidence with making X amount of dollars.
I'm gonna speak very candid, man.
Yeah,
For one, I'm gonna say I think that's when you see the weird in people.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Out of touch?
Yeah, you see out of touch. But the reality is, I think the blessing of not having and then having is you have perspective.
Yeah.
So you're able to have empathy on situations. Mm-hmm. So for somebody that's born in the wealth and that never knows how to feel, like they've never known how it feels to not have or how to struggle or how to figure it out or have to put money together with your boys or go to the store and try to figure it. Those things create a certain level of like grit and understanding. That's
problem solving.
It's problem solving and it does something to your character. When you don't experience those things, if you've never had that and you do come from an affluent environment, which is a blessing if you've never had to go through those, how would I ever expect you to have that wherewithal? Like, there's no way for you to have that.
Yeah.
Somebody who's never had and then they obtain, they can look back or they can look around them and be like, I understand, boom, here you go. Or let me put you on some game. Or I understand how that feels. Or I know what it feels like. This is how you can fight through. Or this is how I work this out. Or there's a certain level of empathy because you come from it. Yeah. If you've never come from it, there's no way to really, you can't do an assimilation of that.
Right.
There's no way to do it. So I could understand why someone might be bougie or why somebody might feel entitled if you come from an affluent background and never experienced struggle. But how can you like a game? How can we, or like practice? How can we give that? How can you show that? Mm-hmm. You can't show it unless you've actually been through it in certain situations. So
I like the problem solving standpoint that you took on that because it does matter. Like I will come out and say like my opinion on it is you have a little bit of a better chance if you come from nothing and you accumulate something to have a problem solving mentality. But I will say not everyone has that gift.
That is true.
Because that easily can turn into, oh, well, I've always been broke. My family's always been broke. Yeah. It's back to what did we talk about during a podcast one time during our season? It was about family trauma or like...
I know you were talking about...
cultural...
Generational curses. Generational curses.
It ties into that too. It's very black and white. You could either be on the problem solving side or you could just blame your current situations and your previous situations to the reason why you're broke or why you're poor. What I do like that you said is the weirdness. Like, I think there's a commonality that is coming from the friends that I have, even with the two that are sitting in here, of how they move and the situations they've been in. I've never had a friend that's made or come from a family of real wealth, because I don't feel like I've ever aligned with people like that. You know what I'm saying? So the weirdness for me is, I think what I've seen from people like that is their problem solving is throwing money at anything. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, their problem solving is something's not working out. How much money? How much can I write you a check for?
Yeah, or just
that's what it comes off of.
It's just, you know, what I'm saying? Character thing, you know. And that's why I agree. But there are also nuances to where there are people that come from affluent backgrounds and are super cool. For super down to earth, and they have. But again, I would look at that like that's a blessing and that's a gift from God, because there's nothing in your natural environment that would cater towards you having that wherewithal. Everything caters towards you having, you never being in a situation of feeling struggle, of feeling pain, of like, man, I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna eat. Those are real things. So if you never felt that before, and you
just not even getting something that you wanted, like maybe you're a kid and you go into Walmart and it's like, Mom, I want that, and it's like, no, you can't have it. It's like, no, here you go. It's like,
for sure,
that's not helping either.
Exactly. So I think if somebody were to have that and they come from an affluent background, it's a gift, because it's like, wow, where did you get that empathy from? You were blessed with that. So I would totally agree. I think honestly, it's I don't want to say imperative, but I think the blessing is coming, not necessarily having everything that you want and then figuring out a way to get it. That's the best feeling ever. Because think if it's reversed, to have and then not to have,
bro, that's
extreme. That's why you see people do
that's a sickness. Things. That's an illness. I feel like that's an illness to have.
You would see the extremities of how people, and then it goes to your question, who are you now as a person? Yeah. Because if you've always had, and then you get, let's say your family's always had, you've been taken care of, you might have been spoiled, and then let's say something happens in life and you don't have it. If you've never worked on yourself, it's over with.
Yeah.
It's over with. You see people do crazy acts because of that. So it's like, nah, I'd rather go through it and then figure it out. And then like the glory from that, like, you know what I mean? Like the mindset from that, illustrious, man, amazing. When you don't have and then you become and then you figure it out and you have some money, but you know how it feels not to have money. That's the route right there.
And it sounds biased, but I think for me, like understanding what I had to work for in my life period, and I'm sure you can look back in yours.
Absolutely.
It feels that much better to know that you worked up to a certain point to earn something.
Absolutely.
And like you said, for us, it ties to sports. Maybe other people that they don't know what that looks like, but it ties to something else.
Yeah.
I respect people like Jackie Chan. He's not leaving his kids anything out of his will.
Oh, really?
Nothing. I think he has 2 kids and he's not leaving them anything.
That's kind of strong, though.
It is, but like, again, the principle of his message is, I want my kids to make something of themselves. I'm not saying everything doesn't deserve to go to the kids, but I think a lot of times we see where everything's going to the kids in these families, and some of them aren't really doing anything with it, bro. They're spending a lot of money. So his decision is his decision. It was nice to see a breath of fresh air with something like that and seeing money that really come from it. Cause I'm sure it was very hard for him to not do that for his kids. Yeah. I'm sure he's doing it in other areas, with taking care of them, but I can almost respect it in a way because, bro, imagine being Jackie Chan's kid. That's a guy that, again, he's probably like a Michael Jordan of actors in our generation of growing up. Yeah. Like, we're talking about kids that are living way differently than the average kid.
That's true.
So, I mean, to reach its own, I will say, like, yes, I agree. It does sound a little dramatic and kind of harsh. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I understand the principle of it because maybe that's their learning lesson of, like, I need to go out and hustle and grind and get what I need to get in life. So that way I can say that I deserved it.
For sure. Now, I think I like the principle. I can respect the principle. I just look at it in the sense of like, what are we doing it for?
Yeah, that's a valid question.
Like how you said, which is commendable, bro. You said if you really get to the bag, which is going to happen, you're going to bless your family.
Oh, for sure.
You're going to bless your family. But that would also almost be like somebody being like, I'm going to get to the bag and I'm not looking out for anybody in my family.
It does come off that way.
And unless something happened in life to where it's probable for like.
That's what I was wondering too. Like, did something happen? Were they not acting right up until a certain point?
There are nuances to where there are things like that to where it makes sense. But if you've had people that have been there for you, and also you can see, because knowing personnel, just like in sports, is important. So if for him or just anybody, and they have children, and you can see like Now my children are dedicated. Like you've raised them right. They're on their own. They're figuring things out. Why would you not want to leave it to them? You know what I mean? Because what are we
out
doing?
Of love?
What are you doing it for? You know what I mean? Like, and that could I mean, think about if you're the child and you're grinding, you're working hard, and you know what I mean, and then you're like, you're not gonna leave me. Like, it's like okay, like it's like all right, you can do that, but like
that can put a detrimental relationship into them.
Like why? Now you also have in that sense children to where it's like you're seeing them, there's no grind there.
Yeah,
they're just reckless. They're not, and it's like for sure you're not gonna leave it to that child. You might leave it the beneficiary for the other child. So there's nuances. But I do think that, when you get like anybody, when you get to the bag as men, I think one of our first thoughts is, who are we going to help?
Yeah. That's a true thing. It's
one of our first thoughts, like and also linear to that is going to be, we know who we're not going to help too. You know what I mean? But it's still in the sense of our genetic makeup is we strive to get, because we're heads of households. So you get money, the money goes towards your wife, your children. That's naturally how we're built.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would wonder if somebody didn't do that, like, wow, what put them in that mindset to not do that? That's where my mind would go like, okay, I respect it because certain things are principle based, but what got you to that point? Depending on what it is, you know what I mean? Like,
and I'm sure there's so many factors into that too. And I think you bring up like a overall, like a good outlook on what that could look like. I remember specifically just seeing the headline and being like, I mean, cool. Like there's people out here that are really trying to get their kids to live a normal life, which in reality they're not. But maybe that's him trying to get them. And it's a cultural thing too. I will say, like, there's cultures out there that are really like, again, back honorable. To like honorable. Some men in certain cultures are men at the age of 18. Some are 15. Like it's all different. We're so used to our Western culture to where it's fluctuation depending on what you believe. But the way I think out of it from a sports perspective is like, I remember when my dad was coaching me at 4 years old, I wasn't always starting at 4 years old. I had to earn my way. And even there were times to where my dad sat me, and he probably now looks back on it, and I think we've had conversations to where he regrets doing that, but he would sit me intentionally. So that way it didn't look like I was always the star of the show when in reality I was nice. Like I was developed more than some of those kids, but it was a harsh reality of like, bro, you're not always going to get in. Yeah. So it's a very minute comparison, but I think the principle of it all is still there with the same thing that maybe Jackie Chan is trying to teach his kids of, build something for yourself. So I think there's different ways to do it. Now, if it was up to me and I had my kids, I think like you said, which is a great point, which I want to get into next, is a provider aspect. It's like me, I was always raised and taught to be like, hey, when I go out of town, you're the man of the house. Like take care of it. Make sure that you keep an eye out for things. You're looking around. You're cleaning up after your mom, your sister, and just having that mindset. I would argue that you cannot get into a provider mentality once you get an X amount of dollars in your bank account. As men, like I don't care how much money you make. I believe that it doesn't matter how much money you have for you to be a provider. Yeah, I think that shows up very different. And again, I think society has told us right now that everything is a numbers base. And a real man is based off of his judgment of numbers and how he can take care of his family that way, which a little bit, for sure.
It's important.
But I think managing your money and being a provider in every aspect rather than just money weighs out more than how much money a guy's making. If he's making 6, 7, 8 figures. Like
provision comes in a multitude of ways.
Yes.
Monetarily is just one of the aspects. But think about people who can provide monetarily, but they're absent everywhere else.
Man.
Are you a provider? In a sense, you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? In the grand scheme, this is a small percentage of the pie that you are. But if that's only 2% out of 100, 98% is absent. So, I agree with you. I think the life of a man is hard. That's just the reality.
It's a lot of pressure.
That's the reality, especially if you're going to have a family. It's hard. It's tough. That's just it's been like this. Is going to be like that. But the provision comes in a multitude of ways. Monetarily, it just adds to it, and it can help out in a grand way. But it's not the totality of provision. It's a big aspect for sure, and it makes life for sure easier in a sense in certain aspects. But it's not everything.
Yeah, and I think that's why. Like, I came from a family and. You could go back and look at how much they're making a year as a 2-parent household. It wasn't very much, bro. But man, I had real love in my life. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And just like you just got done saying, like a real example is a dad who was just making money that is disgusting, like disgustingly rich. But his kids are just, hey, go have the best this, go have the best school, go have the best sports.
For sure.
And then they really don't have them in the stands watching them or like helping them grow in that aspect. So it's like, which one, you know, beggars can't be choosers, but which one would you rather have, you know?
I'm pretty sure they would just want their dad to just be there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a sacrifice of wherever he is in his life and what he's trying to accomplish as a man. You know, what tasks he's taken on to live the life that he wants. But I would say somebody who's receiving provision from like a father that's just there, present, and also like being there in other ways as well. They take that more than when at a certain point you don't know what money, like you don't know what that's really doing.
No, man.
You don't know what that can
None of us really do.
You don't really
that's why there's
that.
A small percentage of them that do it. And I look at it this way. I look at everything very just open-minded in a sense. Like I'm not quick to judge, I'm quick to think.
Absolutely. That's
good. Process. So when I look at people like that, I feel bad for them because time and time again I'll watch these podcast episodes and they just talk about how the moments that, and just like you said, the moments that I thought I was in my highest. I was really low. The moments I showed up popping out in this fit, you know, with the Louis bag, with the Balenci's, you know, I just didn't have it mentally. Like it was just low. I didn't have any love. I didn't have any, it was empty everywhere.
Oh, that's real, man.
And I think so, dude. And it's like, you can't imagine what some of these guys go through as fathers. You looking at them and they have 3 kids. They have a nice house. They have a nice wife. The wife that provides, but they're never home. But it's like if they were to stop going to work, none of that stuff would ever be able to work for them, you know?
Very true. Funny story, and I'll leave with this, man. Okay, and I'll tell you all who it is off camera, man, because I'm like dropping names on camera.
We can't be that. But that's crazy.
But I was in LA. I was coming back, and I was in LAX, and I stopped in the airport to just like get some snacks and stuff. And while I was working, like probably like a week prior, I was watching like a interview. And it was he's an A-list actor. His son was talking about how he's a Christian, how he believes in Christ. He was just talking about how it was growing up. And you just like the Hollywood area. So I'm getting the drinks and stuff like that. I'm in this like convenience store in LAX and I see him.
Oh, really?
I see him. And so he like I get to the counter before him and I turn around and I was like, hey man, I watched the episode that you in the interview talking about how you're a believer and things like that. And I just want to say I am as well. And I just want to say, man, blessings on your journey. And we shook hands and man, we had like a 10, 15. Now, this is an A-list actor's son. I'll tell you all off camera after this episode, but this is an A-list actor's son. And he was telling me in depth about just like, he was like, man, this stuff is weird, man. He was like, the stuff, like, there's a lot of stuff that, man, it's just like, it's not normal. It's not normal. And he was like, I'd just rather be out the spotlight because a lot of these things that go on and things that people think that they want, you don't want that. You don't want that. And that goes into what you were saying in regards to like people think that, man, you look good. Like in that moment that they saw him and they can very well look good because also a part of persevering is persevering through certain things. That's part of life.
It is.
But at the same time, it's like that person could be like, man, you don't know what was going through. Or
there's certain things that us humans aren't supposed to ever be able to touch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It sounds like from what you're saying is this guy or this family touched a lot of those things. And in his aspect and his truth, it wasn't anything that he would have ever wanted. Yeah, or
it was definitely that. And it was having a realization of, because some people just live in that.
Yeah.
They live in that. But having the awareness to be like, nah, that's not me for real. And as a believer, that's like, it says the veil is released. So his eyes are open to like, oh no, this is crazy. This lifestyle, this environment, this, championing celebrities and all. Like he was like, man,
idolizing,
idolization. That's exactly it. And we had a real conversation. And after that, we shook hands and I went to my flight. But it's a conversation I always remember. And like I said, I'll tell you off camera. Bro. Yes. But man, it's things like that to where it's like, be careful. This might go off into something else, but it's like, be careful what you pray for and be careful with like, you know what I mean? You ask for, because it's like, you might see something and be like, I want that. And that person that you're seeing, if they were to tell you what they went through or what it looked like, you might not want it. Or if you do, It's a lot of things that come with that. Yeah.
It's Pandora's box, bro.
Yeah.
Me and my dad have that conversation all the time.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for sharing that too. Yeah. It's not a similar story, but it's a story that I wanted to get to at some part of this show. But I was in Vegas, so I had the chance to go with a really cool group of people. I would consider them friends, business partners, and I'll drop their names. West Logo, like they're doing amazing work on social media and marketing right now, bro. Really good people. Sure. But we were out there on a visit doing some brand and marketing work, some video work at a golf course. And towards the end, beautiful golf course, a lot of money there. And you can only really play there if you got money.
No doubt.
And luckily, like, again, my boys were there for a situation to be able to shoot content and get that stuff done. So it was a great experience that I'll cherish the rest of my life. But towards the end, we get done. We're going to have dinner at the clubhouse. Yeah. And it's late. It's like a Friday, Saturday night. We weren't staying. We were coming back home. So we're eating dinner. We're having a few drinks. And this dude comes over. And these guys are they're marketers, bro. They just know how to talk. They know how to, connect and network with people. Very well-spoken individuals. So this guy comes over and they're talking to him. I'm sitting closer to the end. So like I'm at the end. The other three are sitting closer to them. He's standing in the middle of me and the rest of the three of them. But he's only looking at them.
Okay.
So he's just telling like, hey, what's up? Like, what do you guys do? And these guys are telling him what they do with their, their offerings, their services and whatnot. And this guy's really cool to start off with like, oh yeah, he's this, he's that. Like I could really use you guys. And then he just goes off on a different angle, bro, of like, yeah, I'm actually here at Caesar's Palace. Like I'm up in one of those suites. I got, this, I got that. We got girls coming over. He's all, I actually just flew in with my jet, like a couple hours ago. He's all, I've been hanging out with like, I'm not even gonna say like a real name. You mentioned this before slightly. Yeah, I've been hanging out with like Shaq and like, I'm not to say he was actually, but just like name celebrities, just name dropping people like that. And he's like, I could tell you stories about this person. And I'm just looking at him like this, bro. Like, again, not judgmental, but thinking and not in awe by anything he's saying. And I'm looking at him like, oh, this poor dude. You know what I mean? Like this poor guy. And the rest of my buddies, they're in business mode. So they're giving this dude the attention that he deserves for sure. But like they're trying to make a business transaction with this guy. Absolutely. So they're just, chopping the shit with them. But not once did he ever look at me. And I took that as like, okay, like I understand what you're trying to do here, bro. So I'm like, all right, do what you got to do. One of the guys at the end was really funny. He's looking at me while he's paying attention to everything. After he left, he's all, bro, you just look like you were not believing a word he was saying. And it's like, bro, I just feel bad for people like that because it's got to be tough to throw your business out there like that and try to reach a certain level of likeliness that you don't really got to do. Because I would have been cool off of like, oh, you're at the Caesars? Like, I can guarantee I already know how much you're paying for that. Oh, your business is paying? Oh, you got a card for that? You got an Amex for that? Yeah. Cool, bro. Leave it at that. Absolutely. But then we get into the jets. Then we get into the famous people. Then we get into, we got a table at, this. And it almost after a certain point just came off as really overkill, fake. And I think people like that, again, I find it weird. And they don't know how to operate other than that because that's what they were raised and grown around. So I can't really blame him for being that way. I can only blame the situations before that nobody ever stopped to tell him like, dude, chill. Yeah. That's not how you lead. Like, that's not how you interact with people because I can't interact with that. And that's not really what I care about. And I think the people that really do come from money, it's not necessarily what they have. It's more of the, hey, dude, I'm just really trying to talk to you as a dude. Like you talk to a homie at the airport. Like they want to feel seen, bro, because I'm sure most of their life they're not being seen.
Absolutely, man. And not just all, and again, we've spoken about this on other episodes. It's knowledge of self.
Knowledge of self.
Because if you don't have that, and again, that goes to the question that you asked before. If you don't have that, but you have money, your worth is tied to the money.
It is.
It's tied to all these things that you can do. Okay, let's alleviate all of those things. All those things, that are tangible items. Who are you without that? Who are you without that?
Strip everything.
Strip everything.
Yes, I like that.
Tank top, shorts, no jewelry, no watch, no anything. Who are you? Do you have a build? Do you have character? Do you have grit? Do you have resilience? Are you a fighter? Do you have morals? Do you have a conscience? Who are you? But if everything is based on the bread, that lets me know who you are. Personally, I don't want to be around anybody where their self-worth comes from the money. Because now if you get low on money, it's no telling what you'll do.
You fold. And as men, we can't fold that easily, bro. Yeah. Like that in a sense. You know what I'm saying? There's got to be levels. There's got to be people in your life that you can surround. And I think surrounding yourself, people like that only have friends that have money And that's why sometimes when they fall, there's no one to catch them.
There's no one, man. It's like, and this literally just happened yesterday, man. I was in the gas station getting gas. I was waiting in line, and I guess the guy in front of me, he had dropped some of his money, and it was on the ground.
Okay.
So I picked it up, and I tapped him. I'm like, hey, bro, here you go. You dropped your money. He was like, oh, man, thank you so much. It was a good amount of money.
Okay, yeah.
It wasn't little bread. It was some bread. Bro, this is yours. The dude behind me was like, man, I would have put my foot on it.
Oh, wow. Where are you at? Circle K?
Bro, that's exactly where I was. But I didn't say anything, but I just looked at him and I was like, oh, okay. But all that does is that puts me in mind, that's what type of person you are.
Greedy, bro.
Shiesty, greedy. Bro, it's not, for one, money is a piece of paper from a tree. We put value on money. I don't care what situation I'm in. If it's not for me, I don't want it. Bro, this is your money. You need this to pay for it. Whatever you pull from it to pay for what you need to pay for it. I'm not going to be like, let me put my foot on that and bring it back. That's a character flaw.
It's a lot of dharma.
I don't care if I have no bread. Bro, you dropped your bread. But here you go.
Yeah.
You never know. Somebody might be like, they might be a millionaire and be like, hey, you know what? Let me get your information.
Let me bless you.
I have a job for you. Just off of, again, it's character based. Everything is character based. So him saying that, being like, man, I would have put my foot on it. Yeah, I'm gonna get away from you. Let me go ahead and pay for this and get, because you're the type that if you get low on bread, you might drop the ski mask.
Act different.
And do something crazy. There's no telling what you'll do. So it's like, bro, it's character for real.
Money brings out the best and worst in us. That's what
it's who you are.
That saying is.
It's who you are, exactly. The money just intensifies it.
It does.
It's gonna do whatever you get the bag, you're gonna do. You see people, it's like he or she is only doing whatever they always wanted to do. They just have the money to do it now. Mm-hmm. You can't be like they're acting brand new. No, they're not. They're doing what they always wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, whether you add judgment or not, that's on somebody. But it's like, nah, it's whatever they wanted to do. You're just seeing it manifest because they have the money to do it. We're all gonna do that. You know what I mean? It just depends on what it is. But you get a real bag, bro, you might go buy 10 pairs of shoes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just something you might have always wanted to do. Some people just
coming
get
from a different place
with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
It's coming from different, but it's then how do you act with it? Exactly. Because I could buy 10 pairs of shoes, but if that's all going to an outer source of like, hey, let me flex with this real quick.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, let me buy these 10 pairs of shoes and I'm just going to keep them to myself and wear them out. Yeah. You know, wear them, humbly.
Yeah, for sure. But again, that's what you wanted to do always within. So if somebody judged like, why did Fobs go get those shoes? Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what he wanted to do. You know what I mean? It's just a problem, I would say, when people start doing like outlandish, deviant things. And it's like, oh, that's what you always
acting like they came
do?
from it. And I think that's the issue that I have is like, bro, you didn't have it like that all the time. And it's like, where's the truth in this? Like, why is it that you can't have both at once? Like, I had nothing, but then I worked my butt off. I got lucky a couple of times and I came up on this. Yeah. But I see the switch so many times of like, oh, now my whole lifestyle's got it. Now my whole brand is money. Yeah. Bro, I don't care where it is. Like, I enjoy going into some of the bad areas around here because I'm like,
perspective.
It's perspective. Sure. Yeah. It's like I grew up around going to school some of these areas. So like it feels good to know that I never want to be above anything.
Absolutely.
I never want to be above the place that I come from. I never want to be above going into a restaurant that has bullet holes in it. Like, like that's what I'm never above that. Like,
yeah. No, but I get it though. I get it. I understand it. Yeah, no, it's just having perspective to be like, nah, I will pull up, get my food and dip. I'm not going to judge it. We're not hanging out in there for sure. That's definitely not the vibe, but you have perspective to be like, nah, if it's
too good. Nobody's too good for anybody, bro. Yeah.
Facts. I get what you mean. I definitely understand what you mean.
Just
but again,
a couple bullet holes. That's it.
It's character though, man. Yeah. But it's character. That's what it all boils down to. You know what I mean? It's character. And when you see acts or people vocalize like how dude did, I would have put my foot on it. You just outwardly expressed who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outwardly. So it's like
you could say it's a joke, but there's some truth in a joke, and that's where it's like
it's not a joke because if I wasn't right there, you would have done that. If you were in the position I was in, you would have put your foot on.
Some people just got to keep stuff shame. We need shame.
But sometimes in small interactions like that, you just look, okay, and keep it moving.
I'm sure he felt the type of way when you didn't like, oh yeah, bro, I would have done the same thing to make him feel better.
Like,
you know,
we're not even going to engage in conversation because the reality is you already showed who you are. You played yourself.
That's true.
Nah, man, you don't get blessed like that. It doesn't matter if you have $0. What's for you is for you. What's not for you is not for you. So to do that, you block your blessing.
That's right.
Nah, we not doing that, man. So again, he just showed himself. But that literally just happened yesterday at a Circle K, like you said, at a Circle K, and it's like, man, dude, that's unfortunate. I hope you get that out your heart, man, because I don't.
Homie just lost $20 today.
I don't foresee you being blessed like that, man.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it happens too. So, all right. Well, last question I want to ask you. You know, how much do you get paid in a year? I'm just
hey, $0.
Hey,
I think people should just start doing that because people go to what they want, like what they actually make. Just say I make $0.
That would be a Julian answer too. I would expect that
Zero.
from him. So, no.
Because people feel a way about that. You know what I mean? But what happens if you say zero?
It just tightens up.
That person's not making zero.
Here's the thing. I think you can tell a base of range off of what people make. Like it comes back to the awareness. Hands down, it comes back to the awareness. If you have close friends and you don't have that conversation with them, and you do, and you're open about it, or you're not, whatever. But you can tell based off of the lifestyle someone's living, based off of how they take care of themselves. Like it doesn't matter. And I think again, we get into this stigma of like, I don't have a problem with talking about that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Off camera, for sure. I'm down to have that conversation. I've been asked that. But I don't think it should matter, bro. Because that's not where my value comes from. Truthfully, like I used to think that way. I used to think like, oh man, I care about how much. 41. We only got one more question, but to my point, it's like I just wanted to joke around.
Off quick like tangent off that. Yeah. For most guys, do you think if a woman asked that, they would express that?
I think they would go up $5,000 to $10,000. I think they would go up $5,000 to $10,000. Just like if a woman, honesty, just like if women ask, how tall are you? You give them another inch or two. Oh. That's that.
But they gotta see you in real life.
That's what I'm saying though. Like that. But that's how guys think because
so it's like why lie?
What they're making isn't good enough. They feel
that's internal.
That's internal for sure.
It's all internal.
But let's be honest. That's probably what happens. Ain't nobody.
But certain things you just can't lie about. Well, I don't think
agree.
anything you can because the truth is gonna come out.
I've never had a woman ask me in the time that I was insecure about how much I made, which I don't think there was ever a time that money came because I started late, bro. I started working when I was 20 years old. So I wasn't making any money up until like maybe, a few years ago, if that. But again, if someone was to ask me when it came to like how much I made, I'd never had that insecurity. I'm a weird dude. Money was never something because I never came from it. I always came from like, bro, my dad would always tell me like, watch yourself. You have too much money. It's going to be taken away from you. You have too much anything, it's going to be taken away. So I always live with that and understand that at any given moment, I can have something. I cannot have my rent to pay. True. And that's where I got to figure it out.
No doubt.
The last question, though, I want to ask you, how do you think financial insecurity shows up in men when they deal with women?
I think the biggest thing is almost like the example that you gave when you were in Vegas. It's the overcompensating. That shows. Guys do it with guys, they do it with women. Yeah. It's just a person thing.
It's a person thing
for sure. It's a person thing, so you'll see the overcompensation. And it's like, again, it's like you being in an environment with you and your boys, and you know what I mean? There might be some women and there's dudes saying like, hey, bro, you have change for 5,000? Because there are women around. It's like, dude, wait, like, why are you doing that? You know what I mean? It's stuff like that to where it's like, all right, man.
Oh, bro, you stepped on these. These are $5,000.
Yeah, bro, you stepped on my new Balenciaga spikes with the. It's like, all right, okay, I get
bedazzled.
it. Yeah, but you're yelling it out, so it's like, you know what I mean? It's the overcompensating. You see things like that, so I think it's more of the overcompensating that you see, to where it lies more within the lie of the matter, than just resonating with where you are, or just being like, I'm on the grind. And that can be seen.
They can.
That can be seen. You know what I mean? That can be seen from your boys.
I don't think you ever got to explain that to anybody.
You don't have to. And I think
that really cares to see that.
But and I think the reality, and I'll leave with this. I think truthfully, if you're really on the path of your purpose, which should be first for a man, whether it's your boys or a woman, people will be able to see, and they'll acknowledge like, man, I see you're on the grind, man. Like, you don't think women can see it? They'll for sure see it. And they'll acknowledge it. Like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I see you're doing your thing. You know what I mean? I see you're in the gym. I see you're grinding. I see you're working. People acknowledge when they see it. So you don't have to do anything. Yeah. Just be on your purpose. Your boys will do it. If you know what I mean? Anybody that's honest is going to be around you. They'll say like, man, I see you're doing your thing. I know you're on the grind. Keep going. I know it's hard. I know but people acknowledge when they see people on the grind. So you don't ever have to overcompensate. Just stay on your grind. And if you're really on a grind, it'll be seen.
I think those types of men try to buy women.
Yeah.
Like not. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Not literally,
for sure. Yeah,
but the whole thing of like, come on, let me take you out to this place.
Yeah.
Oh wait, you're not going to give me. You're not going to put out.
You're buying.
You're not going to do this. Like,
yeah.
I think a lot of men try to work that way too. From the stories that I've heard, that's the only thing that I can back from the stories that I've heard. Is like they do something, they pay for something, they what is it called, love bomb, and then boom,
can never work. It'll never work. And
that's why I said like it's being weird, and I think that's the main mantra of today's message is sometimes, when you grow up with something that's so foreign, in this case, having so much money, you can show up weird. And it comes down to you. It comes down to the people around you to help you get out of that and balance the reality of what that looks like. Because although it's not coming directly from your upbringing and how it's being impacted in your life, it's still up to you at a certain point in your walk when you turn, a man, where you turn, in this case, we're going to talk about men, you turn 18 to 21. It's all up to you now, regardless of your situation. You look at Julian, like we come from different backgrounds. We come from different things about what money looks like. And I feel like we're still aligned with how we view things in life. And that's why we're sitting here.
Absolutely.
So all in all, bro, like I said, I'm very glad that you're here to share with us some of the insights that you have for this. I definitely want to leave with this though. Being blessed, humble, determined isn't always going to show up in your everyday life. We make mistakes. We show up in times that we're very vulnerable, insecure, but that doesn't mean that as a whole entire person that we are not worth living out a blessed, humbled life. So as much as you guys are not, feeling good about money, you don't have that type of income to be able to do things you want, it's going to come. Keep working, keep grinding.
Absolutely.
And always stay blessed, man. So we'll catch y'all.
No doubt.